belonging to Blackness. Welcome to Season 6 of the podcast. I'm your host, Dr. India Lorick Wilmot. Good people, joining us today is three-time Super Bowl champion, sports analyst and TV commentator for NBC Sport, Football Night in America and Westwood Sports, social justice activist, philanthropist, and community advocate, Devin McCourty. I hope that there's echoes in there. Devin McCourty.
I should have had my kids here doing that. Like, hey, make me feel better about myself. Let's go, guys.
NFL aficionados are likely well-versed in Devin's stats during his illustrious 13-year career as defensive and cornerback and team captain with the New England Patriots, including when he and his twin brother, Jason, became the first twins to win the Super Bowl as teammates. Yet, this fellow Leo and Christ follower is also well known for his social impact leadership off the field and in the community. From his board service through New Commonwealth Fund, Boston Medical Center, Boston Uncornered, and for campaigns on tackling sickle cell disease, where he and his brother raised over $2.5 million to support families, to also serving as a member of the NFL Players Coalition Task Force and being a policy advocate for youth and education initiatives and legislations. This brother is busy, y'all. Because of widespread philanthropic efforts, Devin has been nominated 4 times for the Walter Payton Man of the Year. Incredible. We are excited to be in conversation with the man whose testimony embodies the scripture, to whom much is given, much is required. Welcome, Devin.
Thank you. Appreciate it. That was an awesome read of my bio. Made me sound a lot more interesting than I probably really am. At least my wife would say that.
Well, you know what? I know I can speak for our listeners that they're really excited to dive into what it means for you to belong to Blackness. So are you ready?
I'm ready to jump in.
Let's go.
Give Black Alliance is proud to support the podcast Belonging to Blackness, hosted by India Lorick Wilmot. The podcast is an exploration of all aspects of our Black communities, including gifts of time, talent, and treasure, while shedding a positive light on the African-descended experience globally. The Give Black Alliance informs, reforms, and transforms philanthropy to acknowledge and partner with our communities in order to bring about equitable change for all. To learn more about Give Black Alliance, visit us at giveblackalliance.org.
Act 1, Call to Adventure. All right, Devin. So much of what inspires us and gives us purpose is autobiographically rooted. So you grew up in a close-knit family in Nyack, New York, with your twin brother, Jason. And then you both attended St. Joseph's Regional High School in Montvale, New Jersey. In addition to playing football, you also participated in track and field before going on to Rutgers and then to the NFL draft in 2009. So tell us, how has your family and upbringing inspired your professional athlete career? And what lessons did you learn that informed your social justice and advocacy work today?
It's pretty unique, I think, looking back at it now. Growing up, it felt like I had everything I ever needed in life. When I was 3 years old, my father passed away. And when you're that young, the trauma of that doesn't really last, other than your dad's gone. You don't truly know what you miss because you didn't have enough time at that age to process what it means to have both parents and being able to do those things. So you miss having that person because of Father's Day at the school and different things like that. Growing up playing sports, and kids' dads would be at the game and they would give them pointers. I knew I wanted to have that. I never had it, but my mom was a superhero. I have an older brother who was 15 years older than myself and Jason as twins. but like she just did everything. Our sneakers got old and like they were getting holes in them from playing outside. We got a new pair of sneakers. I love sports. She would get us jerseys and she would use layaway programs and all of that. And when I was growing up, I always thought sports was my way to change my upbringing, to change what I saw right around me. And that's what made me dive in. I played basketball and football my whole life growing up, was just always into it. When I was 9 years old, Jay and myself, we told our mom, was like, we're going to buy you a house someday. We're going to make it to the NBA or the NFL. And we were like those little kids that had no idea what it meant to do it, but watched it all the time. Like sports was always on. We thought that was the only way to change our life and change everything about our situation. And I think for us, we grew up in Section 8 housing and the whole social impact and giving back. I think it stems from that. You know, the community I grew up in, when you're a kid, you don't even know what Section 8 housing, you don't know what that means. Where I lived, everybody looked out for everybody. When I was going outside and I was dribbling the basketball at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, on Saturdays as a kid, I'm like, Mom told me I had to wait till 8. It's 8 now. Like I'm gone, I'm dribbling and not even thinking about it's waking up Miss Maddie. She's angry, like you're waking us up. But like it was all an understanding of looking out your window and be like, man, those kids are going to do something someday. I see their passion. I see their drive. So we all looked out for each other. Older kids taught me how to do different things. If this happens, you do this. Hey, if you see this going, we need to get out of here. Like all of those little things that you get in a community. I never had to leave my little apartment complex because we got everything. We had diversity. We had so many different people that just always came together, these big cookouts, whatever it was, we were always in community. So I think when I got to the NFL, I found a sense of belonging when I got out in Boston and got to different areas and I saw people doing that. No matter what they had or didn't have, it was all about bringing it together. That got me involved in different things, meeting people. And the next thing I know, I'm involved in legislation and all these different things. When I set out to start doing that, like that wasn't my end goal. It's just kind of that path found me and I found the path by just connecting with genuine, authentic people.
I love how your environment had such an impact in terms of the ways in which you approach some of these issues, right? And then even in those early moments thinking, I think I could do something with this, even though I don't really know what that is. And I'm sure growing up in Section 8 housing and, you have the one thing where you have the neighbors who are like, oh, these boys are out here waking me up early on Saturday morning, but we know they're going to be something. But then not everyone's like that. People are dealing with other kinds of issues and they're endemic forces that are impacting their lives. And so for you to still feel inspired to do this sort of work as adults, I love that.
Yeah, so true.
Some people think of it as like, oh, well, I'm going to do that. I get the sense that your philanthropy is even deeper than that.
Yeah, it's exactly what you just said. You have like this dream and this goal, but when you look outside your window, you don't see that. You see, different people on the corner getting new cars. As you get older, you realize like, oh, they're probably selling drugs or doing things that they shouldn't do. It's easy to say like, okay, I can kind of go that route if those are the things I want. Or I can say, hey, how do I get it and make it a different way? I always felt like I wasn't always the best player. When I came out of high school, I didn't get ranked in the top 100 in the state. There were at least 100 people that everyone thought was better than me. And I always felt that there had to be a reason bigger than just making it in the NFL of why I got chosen. All statistics show single mom gets hurt on her job, has to collect disability, no way to make extra money for us to go to a Catholic school that we ended up going to, or for us to go to a camp, or for us to pay for prom. Like she didn't have the ability to say, let me go do X, Y, and Z to make more money. As I made it to the NFL, I thought back to those things and I'm just like, at any moment, this could have went left and went totally wrong. Why didn't it? Like maybe because I was meant to be a Christ follower. Like I related so much when I read the story of Esther and where Esther ends up. And you just said it's easy to be like, hey, I was once in this situation, but I'm here now. I'm up in the palace. Like I'm chilling. I know y'all struggling out there, but hey, I made it. Don't get mad at me. But she didn't. Not saying I'm Esther, but I always felt like that was my calling. And, I was in Massachusetts for a reason, and I got to meet and see different people for a reason. Let me just keep walking back to why I'm feeling compelled to go out here and do different things. Then it leads to so many other avenues that you don't expect. You're just a vessel. You're just being used to do different things.
I love that. Now, as an only child, I'm always fascinated by folks with siblings, but then in particular twins and identical twins.
Twins are weirdos.
No, I wouldn't say that, but I just find it fascinating, right? And particularly folks who are identical twins. I mean, you both look, I can see the difference for the most part. You both are very identical, but in addition to the ways in which you look, there's such strong parallels in terms of your career, your family, and even your philanthropic pursuits. So what's that like, especially when you have the opportunity to not only play with your brother, Jason, but then also to win the Super Bowl?
I was usually the more kind of outgoing and a guy that always kind of like, he could go left maybe a little faster than the other guy. My brother always was like, we're not doing that. I was the older one, and he'd be like, nope, come back this way. And it's so unique because you just said you could tell a difference. We look at our baby pictures, we can't tell a difference. We're like, Mom, and if it's not written on the back of the picture, and I know younger people who are watching this, like the back of a picture, what does that mean? Like, yeah, back in the day, we took pictures, developed a film. So that's the only way to tell. But for us, our whole life growing up, and I credit my mom, she always made us do everything together. We got in trouble together. She dressed us the same. So we had this feeling of like, this person's always going to be there. This person, I expect them to be next to me. I expect them to have my back. I expect them to do everything with me. And a funny story, when we were probably like 11 or 12, and you get to that age where like, you're just doing little bad things for no reason. And you learn the bad words, the curse words you shouldn't be saying. And we're eating a snack one night, and my brother decides that he's going to write down on a napkin all of the curse words he knows. Not the brightest idea. And
there's evidence.
Right? Forgets to throw the napkin away. Leaves a napkin on the table. We have bunk beds, and my mom comes in and she's like, who did it? Radio silence. Neither one of us say a word. We're there for like 45 seconds, a minute. Felt like forever. And she's like, all right, I'm going to tell you this. If neither one of you say anything, I'm okay with that. Both of you are just going to get spankings. And I'm just sitting there like, sure, he going to say something because he know I. And right before it's about to go, he goes, hey, that was me. And that was our bond. Like, we would never go and tell her whatever you want to say. We're always going to have each other's back. We feel very fortunate that we got to do the same thing. Like, at different points when we got to college, I wasn't playing right away. He was playing. I was like, all right, you're going to be in the NFL. I'm going to be your agent. And like, we always tried to find ways. If one could do something, the other one's going to support. As you get older with twins, they want to pit you against each other. Hey, we want to see you play one-on-one basketball. We want to see you box each other. We knew when we left the house, my mom used to tell us, you are not to go against each other. When we're inside this house, go at it. Do whatever you do. But when you leave, you're united as one. And we got to do that all throughout our lives. Like, we got to go to college together. Then he goes into the NFL. Then I get to follow the next year, and we both get to be in the NFL and live this incredible journey. And then we got to be teammates. In 2018, he was playing in Cleveland, and I told him, I was like, hey, you can't go back to Cleveland. Like, it's not working out there. Y'all just went 0-16. You got to tell them that you don't want to be there. And he calls me, and he's like, hey, they're going to release me. Talk to the GM. I text our defensive coordinator, Brian Flores, who I was close with. He kind of takes a while, and I was like, man, should I just text Belichick? And he was like, yeah, tell Bill. So I text Belichick, Coach, Jay's going to get released. 2 McCourtys are better than 1.
Okay.
No response. 45 minutes, hour goes by, and he calls me, hey, we're trading for your brother. He's going to be a Patriot.
Wow.
My heart dropped, man. So I FaceTime him right away. He didn't know yet. So I tell him, and then we FaceTime our mom. She just starts screaming. That was all we needed. Just that thought of playing together. Fast forward, you get to play in the Super Bowl, and the whole week leading up to the Super Bowl, all we keep talking about is, yeah, we're the first, but it doesn't matter unless we win. It doesn't matter. And then we win the Super Bowl, and we have videos of my mom on the field doing angels and the confetti. And, My youngest kid wasn't born yet, but the other 5 of our kids together, they're all on the field running around. Like, it's an unbelievable feeling. We have so many pictures, videos that for me is the sum of our whole family when it revolves around sports. That is the best picture you'll see when it comes to our family and what sports has meant to us.
So 13 years, 3 Super Bowls with the New England Patriots. You mentioned playing basketball and football. Did you always know that you had a talent for football? I mean, you even said Jason was a little bit better, a little bit faster. How do you think you were able to maintain your consistency and high level of play over such a long career as a safety?
The way I was able to sustain was my mentality because of what it was like growing up. I knew I was good. People know you in your town at some point, whether you were like 14, 15, in your era, you were like, hey, I'm pretty good. As you take those next steps, does it stay the same? When I got to high school, it didn't stay exactly the same. I'm not going to sit here and say like I was confident in high school that I was going to the NFL. I was just trying to get a scholarship. I had New Hampshire, and then Rutgers came, and Rutgers only offered me because they wanted my brother. So I didn't know this at the time, but you go on a visit to Rutgers, and my brother already had an offer of a full scholarship to go there. I did it. So we go, and the last day they offer me, we get in the car going home, telling my mom I'm excited. But then the next day it hits me. I'm like, Mom, I don't like this. They only want me because they want Jay to go there. And she looks at me and she goes, it's not always about how you get there. Sometimes you might have to ride your brother's coattails to get there, but most importantly, it's about what you do once you get there. And I thought, man, I call him up and I commit, and I was like, hey, I'm coming. My brother goes to Boston College the next weekend because he was unsure of what he wanted to do. And this is probably maybe almost a year ago. I found out when I committed, the head coach was pissed. He got mad at the coach that recruited us, like, we got the wrong brother. That's not the one we wanted. Then I found out that my mom actually told him when we went on the visit, the only way my brother would go is if he offered me. So all of this happened not of me knowing. I felt doubted, and it put a huge chip on my shoulder. Boston College came to my house to do an in-home visit, sat with my brother, and at this time we had moved, so we were in a mobile home. We had 2 bedrooms. It's a single wide mobile home, so you can hear everything. And I'm in my room because I'm not allowed to be in the in-home visit because they don't want me. I hated Boston College. And then to get drafted to New England, I hated Boston College for the longest. And I always felt like I had to prove people wrong when it came to football. And you fast forward and you become a first round draft pick. Everyone assumes, man, this guy had to be talented his whole life. I got drafted 27. So in 2010, basically a team saying you're the 27th best player in the country right now in the world. And I never felt like that. And I always felt like there were a lot of people who didn't think I was good enough, felt like I needed to prove something. So how did I sustain that at 13? Like, that mentality never left me. Even when I got drafted to New England, one of the first questions I got at the press conference, are you aware that you were not a popular pick by the fans out here? And I was just like, damn, first round draft pick, and I still didn't make it. And right then and there, another boulder gets on my shoulder of, all right, more people that don't think I can do something, time to prove them wrong. And more importantly, like I always tell young people, I wanted to prove the people that did a lot for me, I wanted to prove them right. My mom, who filed bankruptcy so me and my brother could stay in our private high school, I wanted to prove her right more than anything. My older brother, who would yell and scream no matter where we went about how his 2 brothers were the best in anything we ever played. That mentality, that thought process, along with that comes working out in the summer. I used to go to Arizona in July to train, like all of those little things, getting massages 3 times a week. There's small details that go into being good at football, but the overall mentality, I truly believe, stemmed from, as a high school kid, feeling slighted and never letting go of that feeling and continue to push forward until eventually I was like, all right, 13 years is enough. It's time to go sit down. And I would say even today, that mentality still sticks with me a little bit of whatever my mind is made up on. Like, I'm going to go do it because I know everyone doesn't think I can do it.
It goes back to something you said earlier, for he knows the plans he has for you, right? It seems like when you reflect that there are all these other roadblocks or potholes in the path. somehow you were able to circumvent. It was probably prayer. It was your mama doing all the backroom negotiations of, see, let me tell you something. You're not going to take one and not take the other, because that's what mothers do, right?
Yep.
I'm even of the mind to reframe something that she said to you about riding your brother's coattails. I don't even think of it like that, but I think of it as your brother's climbing the ladder and he turns down and helps to pull you up too, right?
Yep.
Because you're working hard as well. You're not floating in the wind on the coattail.
Mhm.
But I love the framing of, we are a package deal. Just as she told you when you were younger, you and your brother, like, look, you both are two sides, but of the same coin. There's value in that. And then fast forward, I can imagine just so many people poured into y'all that it was like you were justified in doing that. And I'm going to make you proud. And you become proud of yourself.
Those are the greatest moments. We got drafted a year apart because I didn't play right away. I gained an extra year eligibility in college. So he gets drafted the year before. And my mom can't even watch the draft. Like, we watched for a little, then she just goes in her room and she's like,
I can't watch
exactly.
it.
He gets drafted and the tears start flowing. She's crying. He wasn't a high profile draft pick. Think about that. Coming out of college, everyone wanted him. I felt like, like you said, he had to pull me up and say, come on, I'm bringing you with me. Then he goes in the 6th round of the draft. Tears, my mom. The next year now, because of his success in the NFL the year before, all eyes come back on me on my last year of college. I'm now projected a better pick. We have all these random people that just show up at my house because they know we're there. My mom's reaction didn't change. When I got drafted, it was the same exact thing. And that's why I say, like, to me, proving people right is so much more important. It's more inspiring. It's more motivational. When you get that moment of sitting there, my mom, my 2 brothers, and we're all on a circle hugging, you think about all of the sacrifices that were made by everybody in that group. It's for that moment. That's why I try to remind people, because like when you have all these doubters, when you get to that moment, whether it's sports, whether it's business, whatever walk of life you're in, when you get to the moment where you get to the mountaintop, you first think back to the journey. And when you think to the journey, you don't think about the person that doubted you. You think about the people that when it was a hard time, you called them and they were like, hey, I got you. Let's do this. Let's do that. Like, you think of those people more than anything. And I think it's so important to always keep that mentality and that mindset.
You said that a shoulder injury helped to prompt your decision to retire. I think, it might be helpful to understand if you could share the motivations that led your career shift. You left the field, but then you're still in sports. You're a sports analyst and a TV commentator. You could have left to do any other thing. What was the shift, and what was the thing that led to this particular part 2 to the journey?
We keep talking about my relationship with my brother as twins. He retired the year before me. For professional athletes, it's really hard when you walk away. I started playing football when I was 10, and I got to do it until I was 35. And now there's no more. It's gone. Can't play anymore. It's just a hard thing to deal with. And it's well documented, the struggles for all former athletes, something ridiculous, like 80% either divorce, substance abuse, or broke. So whenever someone does retire, and especially for me, it's my twin brother, I would FaceTime him sometimes, like, how you doing? I know things look good on the outside, but just how you doing? I remember FaceTiming him one time, and he was with NFL Network, and he was in Germany. They had them in Germany for the week. And he was like, man, look at my room. I'm having the time of my life. Because I never imagined that I would be having this much fun. I thought it was just about finding something to do. He said, but like, I love this. Like, it's awesome. And I remember sitting there like, damn, like, it's cool seeing him in this environment. And it made it a little bit harder that last year when I went on, because now for the first time ever in my career, I was like, maybe there's something after football that's going to be maybe just as good, maybe better. Like, I never thought that before. Even though I did all these other things that they tell you should do, I always felt like I'm going to miss this. Like, this is all I want to do. Like you talked about, my shoulder injuries, getting older, and just playing so many games. I played 239 games in my career. It got to the point where I was like, okay, I won 3 Super Bowls. I've done so much. What am I like hanging on for? What is the thing that I feel like I have to accomplish? And it was just like, Nothing. I'm content with my career. The guy that was sitting, in Nyack, New York, he never thought that he would accomplish this. He just wanted a shot to be in the NFL, let alone Super Bowl champion, a captain, all of that stuff. And that's what helped. I was fortunate enough with my brother making it. We always had conversations about when we did have families, we would put our families first and we wouldn't make them hang on to something that we couldn't let go. The first conversation I had was a year before my brother. He got hurt his last year. And he was like, man, I don't want to go out knowing that an injury ended my career. I think I want to come back for another year. And I was just like, let's break it down. Like, what does it impact on your kids as they're now older? What if it's not in Miami where you just played? Now you got to move again after they've already moved. And like we talked that out back and forth. And obviously he talked to his wife, and that's more important in our conversation. But being able to call a buddy of yours that really won't be impacted by your decision directly, to be brutally honest with you and tell you something that you might not want to hear, probably expect as another athlete for them to be like, nah, you got to come back and prove it. I remember telling them like, man, I just think it's over. I think it's time to move on. And it's hard to tell somebody that, but me having that conversation with him, and then the next year when I'm kind of battling, I remember he called me right after our season ended, and I had 4 interceptions and really should have easily had 6. And he was like, nope, don't even think about retiring. You should have had 6 interceptions. You would have led the league in interceptions. Don't even think about it. And I remember laughing and him not really understanding that his journey was playing a bigger role in my decision than even how I played last year, because I saw somebody happy and being successful that made me feel like, man, I could do that too. And that's ultimately what led to me saying, all right, it's time. And when I first retired, I didn't know I was going to get a job right away in TV. It was kind of like, I just know this chapter is done. I got to take the jump. And I got to believe that there's going to be something. I read Psalm 143, verse 8 and 9 over and over again that offseason. It was about, sometimes we don't know. I got to believe that there's something for me. It ended up working out, and it was still a hard transition. I tell people, I just went to lunch with a young guy who's playing, and he had a neck injury, and he's trying to make a decision. And I was like, the transition seemed smooth because I went from one job to another job in sports on TV on one of the biggest shows. I said, but at home was rough. My wife was running our ship for years. She did everything. And then I come home and I'm running a ship in New England where I'm a 12-time captain out of my 13 years. I was like, you got 2 captains on one ship. That's not always magical. I had to figure out a lot of those things. We had to work through that transition. So it wasn't easy, but I was proud of myself taking a leap of faith and actually walking and doing and leaving football on my own terms, knowing that I probably still had some left in the tank, but knowing that I did what was best for my family.
Belonging to Blackness, proudly sponsored by Get Connected. Get Connected is a nationally recognized premier cross-cultural and inclusive business networking organization for professionals, business, and civic leaders, entrepreneurs from all cultures across industries and sectors. Our mission is to curate meaningful cross-cultural business and social connections while amplifying, celebrating, documenting, and showcasing the contributions of people of color and allies across our communities. To learn more, visit us at www.getconnected.com.
Act 2, The Road.
So, Devin, you are a devout husband to Michelle and a doting father of 3. How do you play?
You know what? I think it's putting them first, their thoughts, their feelings. I tell people all the time, the thing that I wanted to do most in life was be a dad. Because I never got to experience having a dad, how I grew up. I never really saw a lot of male figures that I was like, man, I want to be like this person or that person. Honestly, a lot of my male figures I didn't want to be like. Having my brother we would talk about wanting to do the opposite of what we saw somebody do that was a male in our life. And that's not the easiest way to try to be something. But when I got to be a father, and, even beforehand, when my brother got to be a father, his daughter was young. I remember going down and him and his wife, as you know, when you have kids at first, it's hardest on the two parents figuring out. And I remember going to Tennessee and looking at him and saying, you could be doing more. I didn't even have any kids at the time. I don't know what it is to be a dad. And I'm like, you could be doing more right now, man. And we've kind of leaned on each other and being husbands and being fathers. I just think that's so important. We always talk about legacy, and especially in sports, legacy is always talked about. And I have my 3 Super Bowl trophies behind me. And to a lot of people, that's legacy. They're like, man, like your legacy is cemented, what you did, what you were a part of. My legacy is that picture over on the other side with my family and my kids. Ultimately, that's my legacy, what they get from me, how they perceive me, how I show up for them day after day. They don't care anything about Devin McCourty, the football player. They were all young. They see sometimes when we go places, people ask for pictures. My son that's now getting into football a little bit, I have a video on my phone where I interview Justin Jefferson, a receiver on the Minnesota Vikings, and he does the gritty dance. And I have a video where I'm doing it with him, and my son was like, you're doing the gritty with Justin Jefferson?
That's like the coolest thing ever.
I said, buddy, I played in the NFL. Like, I played against him. And he was like, but that's Justin. I was like, so that feeling for me was so cool. That's how I love to be. Like, I love my job now because I get to coach my son in football. I get to do all these different things. I'm going to coach my youngest in kickball. Like, I've never heard of a kickball league for kids, and I'm going to coach them in kickball. So I love that I get to play and do something I love and be around football. But ultimately, I get to do what I love the most, be a dad and be a husband, show up just every single day. I'm wrong and probably not the greatest husband and dad a lot of those days, but they get to see me in it, improving and giving them my all, which to me is really cool.
Mm. You talked about how your family life has shifted since retiring, now that it's allowing you, because of the schedule and the opportunities that you have, it affords you opportunity to be more tapped in and engaged with your children in ways that you probably were unable to, and they were smaller too then. But let's talk about Michelle. So how has her support been to your success? Because she's been by your side through your entire career. If you're a person who enjoys watching reality TV, they have all these iterations of WAGs, right? Yeah. Wives and girlfriends of professional players. That has a very particular look and feel, at least what we see on television. But then there's the reality of, there are women who are more than wearing all the designers, having drinks. I can imagine, as you were saying, Michelle's not only the captain of the ship at home, but she's a captain in her own right. Mm-hmm. So how important has her support been to your success, both off and on the field?
Our relationship started with me having so much admiration and respect for her because we were friends in college and she was a pre-med student and I'm the athlete. We would go to parties and we would be out, and I was cool with a lot of her roommates. So I still remember one time they all had a party at their house. I remember going in and she's leaving with her book bag on, going to the library because she had a big test in like 3 weeks. And I was like, you're going to study for a test that's 3 weeks away? Like, what are you doing?
I love that. She was like, listen, I'm about my business.
Exactly. And locked in. We didn't date in college. We started dating my second year in the NFL. She's in med school. She ends up getting into residency and we get engaged. We're getting married the next year. And we know we want to have kids right away. And she calls me and she's like, I think I want to walk away from the residency program. I said, I want to be honest with you. If you told me in order for our marriage to work, I would have to stop playing football, that to me would be a sign that we're not meant to be. And I said, I wouldn't give up football. I said, so I don't feel like I can tell you to give up something that you wanted to do since you were a kid. Mm-hmm. I don't want you to feel like I'm pushing you towards giving this up to make this work. I want you to do what you want. And I believe we'll make it work. I'm in it for that. She's like, this is really what I want to do. She's like, the way I grew up is both my parents had to work really hard for us to have the things we had. And she was like, I kind of miss them being at home sometimes. She said, so like, I wanted to be an emergency room doctor because I wanted to be in an emergency room for 3 or 4 days, a lot of hours, and then get 3 or 4 days off because I wanted to be home. I wanted to be present with my kids. So she said, if this is a way that I can be the type of mom that I want to be, that's more important. It touched me because selfishly, I wouldn't do that. And I just told you I wanted to be a dad more than anything. But at that time, I'm not even thinking about kids. I'm just thinking about, I'm not doing that to make a marriage work. And she kind of had that foresight of the sacrifice and what it would take. You retire out of the NFL, you need that kind of commitment and sacrifice from your wife way more than when you're playing. As hard as it is when you're playing, and her doctor background, and I had got 2 concussions, she would be like, if you get a 3rd concussion, you're not playing. I'm looking at her like, you're never going to make the decision if I play or not. But like, those things go along with playing. And that's what we always see. That's what we see on TV, that everyone kind of paints this picture. But the reality is, the hardest time in life is when you walk away from the game, because you both walk away. My wife had to transition too, every week, preparing, getting ready for the game, who's coming into town, who's staying with us. That whole life changed for her, being vulnerable. When we walked away and we were in, I would say, the first 4 to 5 months of being retired, we were in a tough spot. We did counseling together. It was honestly the best thing we've ever done, because neither one of us had ever really been in therapy or anything. And we got to unlock trauma or different things from our childhood that molded us. We worked with this guy, Rod Harrison, who was a longtime chaplain for the Baltimore Ravens. And he used to always tell us what we see on the outside comes from something happening on the inside. And he was like, until we dig into what's happening on the inside, we're not sure. So we got to actually learn about what was happening inside back from our childhoods or how we are. And it's not that we fixed all those things. It now turned into, we knew that about each other. Like when we first had kids, I'd be like, she never listens to me. I learned from her childhood, she always wanted control. She felt like things happened that she didn't have say in. Has she fixed that? Is that totally different? No. But now, like if that happens, I'm now way more understanding of, I get it. She's not saying I'm bad at being a dad or I'm bad at doing this. She's just trying to make sure she's heard because she doesn't want to not be heard. So that was so impactful for us. We did that for about 6 to 8 months. Honestly, really turned our marriage around and helped us not go down a bad path. We weren't feeling like we were about to get divorced, but we just both sensed this isn't good to be in here day to day. Don't know how we're going to kind of react to each other. So to be able to do that, and then now I think it's so cool because I get to come home and like I wash all the kids' clothes every week. I wash the towel. I now get to be like, I recognize what you did. I recognize all the things that you had to sacrifice, the struggles that like, while I'm never thinking about at home. Like when we got married, I didn't think about anything in our wedding until February. We got married in April. And she'd be like, you sit and pick out your groomsmen. And I was like, season. I'm focused on the season. So like now when you look back and you think about how stressful that probably had to be, I just feel very fortunate that I get to kind of take things off of her plate and help out more and allow her to do more things because she never thought twice about it. Whenever I needed something or something bad happened on the football field, even when I first retired and I was searching for a job, I took a lot of my frustration or anxiety, showed it and gave it to her. She would just be like, you're not mad at me right now. You're just frustrated. And like, it was just very direct. So she's always just been there. And I think I try to tell everybody that's obviously in my field when they walk away, just realize how important it is that your wife's there, that she shows up, that she's willing to listen to you, that she's willing to work it out. And what we do for a living, we get to make a lot of money in a short amount of time. That's very attractive to people. So when some of those things start to go away and someone sticks with you, even though it might not be a perfect situation at that moment, don't overlook the fact that that person is sticking with you and that they're there picking up the pieces, helping you after all of the surgeries and different things you've had. Like you got to remember that. I try my hardest to always remember that, and never perfect. And, you know, we always have our ups and downs, but she's been incredible. It's been a blessing to look to the left and to the right and know you have a partner that's there, that's always going to be there for you. It's been amazing.
Yeah, and she has your front, your back, and your side.
Yeah.
You know, I love the context now that people, particularly African descendants, are a lot more open to seeing the benefit of therapy and just having space to learn about yourself in the midst of these transitions, right? Because who you were at the beginning when you were dating is not the person you were in the middle of your career. And then now, as you've transitioned to this chapter, there's an evolution of you as a person and how you're choosing to show up in these different moments along this journey. And for you all to have a space to say, we're not trying to blow this whole thing up. We're going to try to develop understanding as to how we can get through the next moments of transition, because there's questions and impositions upon the identity. Devin the player, Devin the father, Devin now the husband, Devin now the family man. I love the internalization and self-reflection that's necessary. I can see how it also shows up in your advocacy around issues on health and wealth and education and community development. Now it seems like you have this space to transition and be more vocal because now you have understanding about who you are,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
And how you're choosing to show up even outside of the home, but in these philanthropic spaces. So was there a particular moment or event that inspired you to become more vocal and more involved in these issues?
I think it's 2 times in my life where I felt compelled, I would say, to do more. And 2016, I remember so many different things were going on, and Brady had got suspended for 4 games, and we're opening the season in Arizona. I remember the ESPYs that year. It was LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Paul, and Carmelo Anthony all stood up and was like, we got to put an end to police brutality. I remember sitting there and watching and being like, yeah, but like now what? Like that's awesome that they did it. It was a great moment. But I was just like, man, we have so many moments like this. Great moment, silence, and then another bad thing happens. So I remember being in that moment. I remember telling the team that in solidarity, I'm going to raise my fist before the game. And we were talking about different things. Someone on the team was like, we wouldn't even be talking about this if Brady was here. I remember sitting there like, man, this has nothing to do with that. This has to do with there's things going on in our country that we can be vocal about. We can speak up as players. And I remember that being the first time that I realized that the person that showed up in the community, Tuesdays are off day, and I would go to all these different things. People love that until you start talking about some topics that they might not want to get into. And I realized then that to do it, that means we got to get into it. And I felt like on our team, it was a very unique time and area. You think about Bill Russell and everything he did and his feelings towards Boston and the way Boston's perceived to outsiders in Massachusetts, that if we could do something here, it'll be super impactful. And right from there, I was already vocal on my team, but from there, I decided I was going to be vocal on a bunch of other different things. We will go to the White House. Oh, we won the Super Bowl that year, being very outspoken on not going to the White House and all of those different things. And that was when I first was like, you know what, I'm going to step into this role of being a spokesman and being out there. And I think the second thing that was monumental in my career, in 2020, we were expecting our 3rd child, and we lost our 3rd child, a baby girl. Mia was a stillborn. End of May 24th, 2020. This is right around the time everyone's sitting at home and George Floyd gets executed and everyone sees it. I had those wrapped up all in a day apart, and processing that and how just crazy all of that was. And to fast forward, maybe about a month later, Rasan Hall reaches out to me, who became a friend of mine, who was at the ACLU at the time. And he said, there's a case going on, this guy, William Allen, trying to get his sentence commuted. And I think your voice would be powerful. And at the time, I'm like, I'm kind of wrapped up into my family and everything's going on. I can't even think about this right now. And he's like, I just want you to keep it in your mind. And we go throughout the season. He reaches out to me again. And I was like, you know what? I'm not sure if I can help, but if there's a way I can talk to him, then I would love, and set up a video conference. And we talked for about 45 minutes to an hour. And it changed my life because I'm talking to somebody who had been in prison at that time for 27 years. He's talking in a way that is only about others, about how he's given and he's serving others while he's in prison. And he's in all of these different programs, even though he's in prison for life and he's not supposed to be allowed to do them. But he kept going back and forth to the warden and taking it as far as he could to get programming and be allowed. And I'm like, this guy hasn't once said to me the way he was treated was unfairly and that his sentence was a little too cruel for the crime he committed. Not one time. Everybody else told me that, but talking to him never brought it up. And I tell people all the time, my whole time in Massachusetts, nothing was more special than that. When I got a call and said, hey, William's going to get released from prison, my heart dropped. I got goosebumps. It was during the day. My kids were at school. Like, I yelled to my wife because she was part of it just as much as I. And I just couldn't believe the impact, winning a Super Bowl, being in sports. But like, this was somebody's life, 28 years behind bars. And he had just been told, like, you're free to do whatever you want. That touched me so much. Those were two moments in my life that I think I got to be a part of something, the greatest achievement that I'll ever have, being a part of life. Obviously, being a part of my kids being born, that was life. That was bringing life into the world. And then the second, being a part of someone getting freedom was remarkable. Still get goosebumps thinking about that. It was just such a special time, especially because the whole team got involved. Bill Belichick, the number one guy who says, only thing we're here to do is play football, win games. He signed a letter to the governor asking for his sentence to be commuted. Like, I was just like, Belichick is listening to me present this to the team on a Monday after we just played the game. Like, that never would have happened when I first got to New England. That was a really special time.
I think that's beautiful on so many different levels because, when I think about the NFL as an organization and all the shifts that it's had to undergo, you still have folks where the response is just shut up and play. Like, this is your job. Just do this. Why are you getting involved? And still you were feeling compelled to say, this is bigger than us. And to be fortunate and have the privilege of using your platform and to lend that platform to some of these causes, being a part of Boston Uncornered or a New Commonwealth Fund, any of these organizations that you've been engaged in that are focused around social justice. The gift of engaging with someone's path to liberation. Freedom is something that it's so understated when people say it's great to be free. What does that truly mean? Freedom of mind, body, and spirit. I can just imagine how fulfilling it was to see this man, even meet him.
It was. I got to go and testify when he was in front of the governor's board. And that was the first time I met him in person and talking to him. It was like, we're close. When he was staying with his dad and going to Brockton and visiting him in his home, the excitement and like everything about him. When he FaceTimes me now, we catch up or we talk. That is the coolest thing because it's like everything you spoke about you wanted to do, you're out and you're doing it. And what I love is when I talked to him the first time, and still to this day, he talks about his journey being the chance to kick the doors off the hinges. So not just so he could be free, he has a responsibility to do things the right way so that when somebody else's sentence is coming up, they can point, y'all gave him an opportunity and look what he's doing. And I love that because he shouldn't have been in prison that long. And he could have had the mentality of, I didn't deserve this. He was like, I wouldn't be the person I am today without that journey. As crazy as that sounds, I needed that journey to be who I am today. Now I got to make sure my journey allows the people behind me that I already know that I talk to on a day-to-day, they got to be able to get out. They got to be able to get freedom. And that's got to be because I'm doing it the right way. That was lovely. Matthew Slater was a longtime teammate of mine, played for 16 years for the Patriots. And we both been named captains the same year. And he said to me, he said, leadership's about servanthood. When William said that to me, I was like, even though he's finally free, all he wants to do is serve other people. Like, that's a true leader. That meant a lot to me and inspired me seeing him have that kind of thought process.
What are some of the specific social justice initiatives that you're currently excited about?
It's the fight. I just love that so many people across the board, right? Maternal health, DEI in colleges, all these different things. I'm excited that people who are in power, they're not sitting there thinking like, woe is me. No, everyone's like, let's unite. Let's be together more. Let's be in community more. Hey, my nonprofit that I run, I need to connect with you across the river. We got to get together because this is not us battling for those dollars that are out there. This is to make sure the dollars still come. This is to make sure that we protect each other. To me, it's been very inspiring. I know the unknown is always scary, but sitting on board meetings or committee meetings and hearing and seeing the way people are trying to maneuver and do things, that for me is incredibly inspiring because that's what it takes. Nothing stays the same. Think back to 2020 when all of this took off and people were like, I want to get involved. We would have been crazy to think that that was going to always stay like that. So as things continue to change, adjust, adapt, and keep it moving. I love to see that. And I get to see it up close with the new Commonwealth Fund. It's one of the best boards I've been on with participation and connectivity. I get to see that firsthand.
Act 3, Where We Land.
All right, Devin. So we've gotten to the end of our show. Before we leave, share with our listeners, where can they find you? Where can they watch you? Your social media handles for those who still love you, who are still fans and want to support all the things that you're doing.
On social media, everything, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram is at Devin McCourty. And then naturally, Twins, at McCourty Twins is our joint account that we have that pushes out a lot of the content that we do together. And then still very involved in sickle cell. We have our Tackle Sickle Cell event that we do every year, a 5K walk, but that's at McCourtyTwins.com. You can get all the information when it comes to sickle cell. I'm just looking forward to the different events. We'll be hosting the Boston Medical Center Gala, finding ways to still be impactful in the causes that mean a lot to us to grow and do things that'll help other people.
All right, folks, there you have it. Thank you so much, Devin McCourty, for joining us on Belonging to Blackness.
Awesome platform that you've started. I wish you nothing but success, and we'll be back on soon. I'll bring my other half, keep this conversation going.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others and be sure to subscribe. Find us on my website, www.indialoricwilmot.com. Follow us on IG and Facebook at belongingtoblackness_podcast for the latest fashion and accessories. Visit www.shopbelongingtoblackness.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.